The North Sea, a highly productive ecosystem that has been providing us with food and livelihoods for centuries. An area in which Dutch fishermen have a considerable share of the quota for sole. A method that currently is being tested and reviewed in a pilot project.
De vangst, tongvangst is beter. Schonere boksen, dus minder vuil. Minder kleinere vis. En het is gewoon minder bodemberoering. Het is een schonere visserij. Het is ecologisch beter. Om zo te zeggen, we zijn milieuvriendelijker bezig als voorheen. Ook qua brandstofverbruik. Ik leg 50% lager als met het oude visserij die we deden met de ketting. We zijn van ongeveer 35 ton in een week naar 18 ton gegaan. Dus dat is de helft minder wat we verbruiken. Maar het is, hoe noem je dat? Minder zwaar. Want alle zware ketting ben je kwijt. Als we de kuil open trekken en je ziet de vis in de lasten vallen, dan is het alsof je gewoon in een aquarium kijkt wat je net leeg hebt laten lopen. Het spartelt, het beweegt. Het is heel levendig. En ook voor als je wat bijvangsten bijvangt. Ik bedoel, we draaien het gelijk op. Het gaat overboord en het zwemt eigenlijk gelijk weg. Het is hartstikke levend. Dus dat is gewoon, je geeft de vis die je niet mag hebben een kans om weg te zwemmen en te overleven. En dat is voor ons voor later. Dan kan het visje doorzwemmen. Nou, pak hem volgend jaar alweer, zal ik maar zeggen.
But how does it work? How is this pulse technique used? The idea and the technique were developed in close cooperation between fishermen, technicians, scientists and the Dutch government, with the support of the European Union. While the technique can be used and combined with different types of gear, the pulse technique is mostly used in combination with another innovation, the wing. A wing that functions and is actually designed like the wing of a modern airplane, but this wing floats just above the seabed. Balanced by its nose, it detects and follows the seabed. Research has revealed that this is a promising combination that has so far procured good results. Because the new pulse gear is much lighter, the average fishing speed of the vessels was reduced. Average fuel consumption was consequently
already for many years in research on the effect of pulse fishing on the ecosystem and the efficiency of this new innovative fishing method. Pulse technique uses electrodes. An electrical field generated between the two electrodes, the conductors. And the fish responds to the electrical field, but it's important to know that if you are a small fish, the difference in voltage between your nose and your tail is smaller than if you're a large fish. So that means that a large fish is more is earlier affected or stimulated by a particular field strength than a small fish. And that makes it possible for developing these gears or adapting these gears to select for particular size classes. Say the first results of these studies clearly indicate that it's a very efficient technique for catching sole. So it's comparable in its efficiency to the traditional fishery using ticklet chain beam trawls. It is less efficient in catching other fish. And that is really the important advantage of this technique, that it is more selective for sole. Based on the knowledge we now have, it is, for me, as a scientist, I'm quite sure that the pulse fishery has advantages compared to the traditional way.
It is extremely important that we know exactly what our vessels are doing at sea and what happens when they land their catch. In accordance with European legislation, fishing grounds in the North Sea are continually controlled and patrolled by our Coast Guard. And, since this is a pilot project, there is naturally special interest in our new pulse gear vessels. As part of a transparent and responsible development plan for this innovative new pulse gear, a special committee was established in which NGOs such as the Northsea Foundation play a key role.
We are supportive of the development of sustainable fishing techniques, but at the same time we are working as a watchdog. The fishery in the North Sea should become more sustainable, and the traditional beam trawling, everybody knows that, has a lot of disadvantages. Pulse trawling seems to be a good alternative, and that is why we are involved. This innovative gear is now going to be introduced on a large scale in the North Sea, and we still don't know the ecosystem effects. There's a lot unknown about the effects on species that are quite vulnerable to fisheries and are depleted in the North Sea, and I'm talking about sharks and rays in particular. One of the advantages of pulse fishing is that it is very selective for sole. So we would like the research to be focused much more on how to catch the larger sole without catching any other flatfish species. Pulse fishing is a new technique, and because it's very efficient, we think that the control and monitoring should be very strict. And it's not only better control by authorities, but also the monitoring on the vessels themselves. I'm thinking of cameras and sensors, so that at any time the fisherman is able to show to the inspection what he has been doing.
So it is important to collect data, and it is important to invest in research. In addition to IMARES, institutes such as LEI and ILVO, European Union projects such as BENTHIS, and science councils, including STECF and ICES, are involved in researching and reviewing the effects of pulse fishing.
Understanding the consequences of fishing activities on the wider marine environment is extremely important, particularly when many of the ecosystem goods and services support the production of those fish. So if we can understand those processes, then we can help policymakers and managers to manage our fisheries in a more sustainable way and make them more productive and more profitable for fishermen as well. A sensible thing to do would be to follow the current gear trials which have been done at sea, and to set up different areas of the sea where the pulse trawl is used and compare the response to the marine environment in those areas to other areas where we allow only the traditional beam trawl configuration to be used. Clearly it's popular with fishermen, and that's one of the most important things. There's no point devising a gear that the fishermen reject. The fishermen are keen on this gear, and I think they're keen to work with scientists to make it more efficient, to make it more selective. There are other ways to catch sole, of course. You can use set nets, which you deploy on the seabed. But the problem with set net fisheries is that they do tend to be limited by season, by weather, and they also tend to be quite restricted in the areas of the seabed that are suitable to deploy them. So fishermen are behaving as much more as efficient businessmen. So going forward in the future, we need to create the right sort of environment, the right regulatory framework to enable these sort of exciting innovations to be put in place and tried much more easily. Fishermen are actually part of the marine ecosystem as well, and as humans we depend on that marine ecosystem. And what I've learned over 20 years of working with the fishing industry is if you actually take the time to listen to fishermen, you learn an awful lot. And I think the more that we can develop that understanding and promote that process, then the more likely we are to lead to positive outcomes in the future. Groundfish fisheries, of which the pulse trawl is just one, are used around the world. So this fishery is not just confined to Holland or the UK or Germany or Denmark, it's used across the globe. So the results of the innovations that we see here could be applied elsewhere around the world, and so the effects could be extremely important at a global level.
Evidence suggests that the innovative pulse gear could mark an important improvement en route to a more environmentally friendly and durable method for bottom trawl fishing. Not all of the questions have, however, been answered yet. Remaining questions that need more research include the effects of electric pulses on the environment and the behavior of vulnerable species such as sharks and rays. More research is consequently required. This is also why this pilot has recently been expanded to include the examination of how to create a more sustainable environment and future to catch fish in the North Sea, specifically sole. Since the North Sea is a shared resource, we think it is important to share all the findings and challenges we discover during this pilot open online platform that provides full information about the Puls trawl pilot.